everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and review Higher Learning, a 1995 drama film written and directed by John Singleton and starring Jennifer Connelly, Ice Cube, Omar Epps, Michael Rapaport, Christy Swanson, and Lawrence Fishburne. The movie made $38.3 million and is definitely considered a hood movie classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I am Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest.
And y'all, Higher Learning. Okay, so the first thing is, even in the intro, when we're calling this movie a hood movie, that's really interesting because is this a hood movie? Because one of our criteria for hood movies has always been that that they needed to be in the hood. Haven't we always said that?
We have, but I would think that the caveat, or it involves hood people.
Okay.
Because if you had a movie where like a whole bunch of hood dudes, a whole bunch of hood people went to the Swiss Alps to ski, it would still be a hood movie. You know what I'm saying? But that would be a funny movie, actually. But,
that actually really would.
But I'm just saying.
You heard about it here first on the Right Perspective, because y'all already started taking some of our ideas. Don't copyright. It's copyright.
I feel as though they had so many hood icons and figures that it is officially a hood movie.
Well, yeah. My real criteria for a hood movie is much more racist. So
I don't want to know.
I'll tell you it. You want to know? Okay, very good. I'll let you know. I just feel like it is a movie that it has not really transcended the Black community in a very popular way. It is a movie that we could all know, and some people may have heard of, but they would not be able to go. Like, if I say to someone and I'd be like, you ain't got to lie, Craig, we're all gonna know what I'm talking about. And everybody knows Ice Cube. Everybody could pull up his filmography. Like that would not be a issue. So I think, but his movie, like Are We There Yet? That's more mainstream. Right. It's a wider viewing audience. So that's what I think about a lot of times when I think about hood movies. I'm like, oh, it's all Black people. We know it. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because there's certain movies that maybe people wouldn't call hood classics, but I might, like Two Can Play at That Game. Don't nobody outside of Black people know what that movie is. I don't think Aubrey even knows what it is. But it's and also
I agree. I agree with that criteria. I agree with that criteria, just because I remember we did a debate before about Love Jones, because we haven't reviewed Love Jones yet, did we?
No,
we didn't. But we've talked about it, and
can we make this screen black and white when we do that one?
Nice. Also boring for our viewers, but nice. But that's one of those movies where I do consider it, like I would list it as a hood film, but and in my mind, it's like, it's just because it's our movie.
But did anybody argue against that? I'm just curious.
I can't remember the conversation.
I don't think.
But it doesn't meet your criteria of having a certain kind of character in terms of the kinds of Black people that they're portraying. I just feel like if it's our movie, you know what I mean? That's how I kind of think about it.
I'm not, because I would never argue that Love Jones is not a hood movie. I would never, but like, even though it doesn't necessarily take place in the hood, it's also very Black situations. The funny thing, I think what it is about hood movies is it's one of those things that you might not necessarily be able to define, but you know when you see
it. That's exactly good.
You know what I mean?
Feel it. Feel it. That's
you
good.
You just know.
That's good. We need to pick a voting symbol, and I have one to recommend for us.
Yes.
And it is the Columbus statue. So
Mm.
this movie takes place in a fictional university called Columbus University, and they have a big old statue of Columbus right at the center of the university. And of course, it's because it's at the center of the university, when there are things like gatherings on the yard, is right there. Okay. I think that is a perfect symbol for this movie, because what it does is it represents the fundamental lie that undergirds this country. You know, everything that is supposed to be America, we know that all of those things, they are not grounded in truths. They are grounded in aspirations that some people have the opportunity to achieve, and some people currently do not, you know. But that fundamental lie of discovering, and for our audio listeners, our audio people, I am putting it in big old quotes when I say discovering, this country, like that very fundamental lie is just, it's the beginning of, just the root of all of this, you know. And what the movie is really about is, it's about a lot of things, but the main characters are all in some way grappling with, the realities of the complexities of this country in its anti-Blackness, you know. They're all grappling with that in different ways, okay? And it's anti-womanness, you know, so they're grappling with that in different ways. And it's just about like growing up and accepting the reality of the terms of what it means to be in this country and to have to aim to thrive. And so I think it all goes back to that fundamental lie, which is symbolized so beautifully by that statue.
Oh,
that's my proposal.
All right, well, I think you
did y'all come up with any?
I had thought of just the pipe, and I actually have one.
Pipe?
Yeah, the pipe. Lawrence Fishburne's pipe.
Oh, his pipe. Got it.
Oh, okay.
And I actually had one at some point, and I tore my house up trying to find it. I can't find it. And I wanted to use it for today, but I could not find it. I think I must have threw it away.
That would have been a great use of prop.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Well, what about the pipe, bro?
I just there's nothing deep. It's just when I think of higher learning, him always what's the name of the character? Professor.
Let me see.
Whatever his name is.
Professor Maurice Phipps, played by Lawrence Fishburne.
Whenever he was making his points, they were always punctuated by that pipe. I'm like, how is he smoking a pipe in the middle of
indoors, outdoors, smoking
in the middle of all the other?
He did not care about the other faculty's desk. Maybe he lit that thing. I said, "Oh, this is interesting."
But you're, as always,
lung cancer.
You're
in our life, but it's in our adult lives that we've seen smoking be disallowed in those places. You know, people used to smoke indoors. I remember that
in the 90s.
I feel like they did. Because don't you remember being in restaurants and being like,
yeah, but not
the smoking section.
When did this movie come out? 96.
Let's see. I know I just said it, but I can't remember.
96. I thought it was early
95.
Wow, I thought it was earlier than that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that was just a random.
Yeah.
That always makes me, whenever I think about higher learning, I think about Omar Epps' move after the fight, and I think about that pipe.
We got to talk. We got to come back to that professor character. He's very interesting.
All right.
Sis, do you have any potential voting symbols for us?
No, I was just thinking all of the things that I thought of. I just thought, just add blood to them. The Columbus statue, drench it in blood.
Stop it.
I thought about the American flag and then put blood on it. Like,
okay, listen, we're going to keep this positive.
Professor Phipps' pipe and put blood on it.
All right. Well, we're going to just delete all of that from our memories. And
the memories of blood.
I was in such a happy mood.
Yeah. Well,
That's what's wrong with us. We don't want these realities that are happening in this movie.
Of the three of us.
King and Queen, are you listening?
Aubrey, I think you knew this movie better than me and Brittany, because I know for me, this was my first time actually watching, because I feel like I knew clips before this, but this was my first time actually watching it. Sis, that's true for you too, right?
Yes.
So, bro, why don't you pick our voting symbol?
I like the Columbus statue. It's very overly deep, as you do, but I can't disagree with any of the points you made. So,
yes.
I also thought it was an interesting visual, because they actually obviously speak to that in the movie.
Absolutely.
But I also thought it was just an interesting thing that they also used it to protect themselves from the shooter, which was just an interesting another mind swirl to throw in there.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, so this movie, Higher Learning, must get 3 Columbus statues at the end of this discussion in order for it to be considered a classic from the Wright perspective. It cannot get 0, 1, or 2. It must get 3. All right. So let's hop into our recap. And for those who are new to the podcast, we always do a recap, and it is going to be chock full of spoilers, but that's because our content is generally old. Okay. And that's because we all just need a refresh on it. And, some people don't necessarily, go and take in the content, but they still want to enjoy the podcast. So let's start with our recap of Higher Learning. Higher Learning centers on 3 freshmen at Columbus University: Malik Williams, played by Omar Epps, Kristen Connor, played by Christy Swanson, and Remy, played by Michael Rappaport. Picture Columbus University as any large white school with a manicured campus, American flags and statues everywhere, and with a student population large enough to have 300 students in an intro to political science class. Okay. Malik, a Black student on a partial scholarship for running track, is struggling to balance his academic and athletic requirements. And the issue really goes beyond the time demands. He's struggling philosophically with the fact that he is literally trying to win awards and notoriety for the school in exchange for education. It feels like some kind of coonery for him, especially since the Black students are regularly mistreated on campus, including abuse and targeting by campus police. And he can't help but think about all the ways in which systemic racism has and will continue to make his life difficult. He finds community with other Black people on campus, including a super duper senior named Fudge, played by Ice Cube, and a professor named Maurice Phipps, played by Lawrence Fishburne, that help him to start to channel some of his frustration into personal development and to realize that he has to focus on understanding the nature of whiteness in America if he's to have any success in navigating it. He also finds support from a fellow member of the track team, Deja, played by Tyra Banks, that eventually becomes his girlfriend. She is very driven and focused on getting everything she can from the university, and she wants Malik to do the same. Our second student, Remy, is a white engineering student and is completely awkward and overwhelmed by campus life. He grew up in Idaho and really struggles to find community on campus. When he tries to fit in with frat life and can't make that work, he begins to settle into his life as a loner. In doing so, he became the perfect target for a group of white supremacists that recruit him and begin to groom him. He shaves his head and begins to really, truly believe the hateful rhetoric that he's being taught. Eventually, he's so deep into the white supremacist culture, he is triggered when he sees any people of color on campus, and he just decides to drop out. Our third student, Kristen Connor, is white and has clearly been very sheltered in her life prior to college. She doesn't know basic things like don't walk across a huge campus in a major city alone in the middle of the night. And she clutches her purse when she's in the elevator with a fellow student that is a Black man. As she struggles to find her place for herself on campus, she finds herself getting swept into fraternity and sorority culture full of drinking and partying. And in that context, she ends up getting raped by a fraternity guy. She doesn't report it to the school because she thinks they will just tell her she brought it on herself. And she doesn't tell the girlfriend she parties with because she knows that they don't even really like her. Eventually, she does confide in another student, a junior named Taryn, played by Jennifer Connelly, a lesbian who runs a feminist group on campus. Over time, Kristen does find the courage to be able to be intimate with another guy, a kind and respectful guy that she starts dating. But she also begins to sleep with Taryn at the same time. Taryn is very... What'd you say, sis?
Express yourself, girl.
Yeah, hey, that's college. It's about discovery. Taryn is very caught up in student activist culture. So Kristen becomes swept up in it too. And in a moment where tensions were high on campus because of several horrible racist incidents, she comes up with a plan to solve everything. A festival of music and other kinds of performances called Peace Fest, with the goal of demonstrating that, quote, we can have fun despite our differences in race.
What is high?
Unfortunately.
What is higher? What is learn? What is learning? What is higher learning?
That's so good. Unfortunately, the day of Peace Fest is the same day that Remy seeks to prove his commitment to the white nationalist cause by vowing to kill some of the non-white people on campus. He goes up on a roof with a sniper rifle and opens fire, killing 2 students that were attending the Peace Fest, including Deja, Malik's girlfriend. Malik is beyond enraged. It's possible that he had some sort of psychotic break, actually, because instead of running away from the building with the sniper on top like everyone else, he runs toward it. He runs inside and up the stairs and runs right into Remy. They fight, and when the campus police show up, the police beat Malik down with batons and let Remy go. Eventually, it must dawn on the police that Remy should also be caught, because they then try to catch him. They had given him such a head start, though, that he would have gotten away, except that he ran into a dead end. And instead of letting himself get arrested, he decides to kill himself. Given all that has occurred, Malik decides to leave school for a bit. And the last time we see him, he is running again, but not on the track for the school. It's away from the school and in pursuit of some kind of peace. The end.
Is that what you thought? I was going to ask that. So is that what you thought the end was?
Well, let's talk. That's a good place to start, bro. So when I watched it, I thought that so he, at the end, after all that happened, he ends up talking with his professor and kind of saying, "Listen, I think I need to leave here. I think I need to take a little break from this, not drop out, but a break." And the professor basically says, "Listen, whether you continue right now, whether you take a break, whatever you want to do, it'll be the right thing. You'll be fine." And then we see Malik running from campus. I assumed that was, I watched that scene as him saying, you know what? I got to get away from here. My life has to be elsewhere from this. But bro, you saw it differently?
I don't know. Because every time because, I saw this in the theater, and I'm okay with movies like this. I really am. And what I mean by that, there's not many that I could think of, but like, you all ever see Crash?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so movies where they're just like, we're going to have symbols in this movie, and we're turning everything up to 10. The racism, the reaction to racism, like everything. We're turning everything up to 10, and everything has like a meaning. And you can tell, and I feel like it's one of those movies where you can have somebody who's talking over it and explaining their thought process, and they're like, yeah, see here, this is when I really wanted to show that Malik was blah, blah, blah. So I felt like they were trying to do something, but I didn't know what they were trying to do, because it's just like, okay, it's the end of the movie, and then he just starts running.
Yeah. Or maybe it was intentionally ambiguous, because it's like because he never flat out says, I'm going to choose. He never clearly says which path he's going to take.
That's right.
He just lays out his options.
Right.
So yeah, I think you're right, but maybe I was presumptive to kind of, make a choice about which path he took. Sis, what did you think? Did you think that ending was about him leaving campus, or was it still not conclusive?
I would say lean more toward it wasn't conclusive, but I would say if I had to really do a deep dive, I think that he's leaning into something he's familiar with to cope with what's happening right now. He's an athlete. He's a track star. And so, you know, you hear how often I run miles in the morning to clear my head. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it could be just a symbol of him leaning into what he is good at so he can continue to win the race. Because if you think about that conversation he had with Professor Phipps and how Professor Phipps used that as an analogy to help him to continue to move forward in his studies. You know, so I just think that it could be him being like, I could crumble right now, or I could do what was talked about before. I could run and I could keep going and I could get better and I could move forward. So I think that could be just a part of it as well, just a symbol of him not giving up and moving forward. Because baby, that's some kind of freshman year.
Oh yeah.
Like that's
but you know, bro, when you said everything was turned up to 10, I didn't feel like it was turned up to 10. I felt like it was very realistic in terms of like, you know, I feel like there's a way they could have overdone it. So like, for example, with the police
I'm not saying it was overdone.
Well, you said it was like turned up to 10.
Oh, yes, I did. I am saying everything was turned up to 10.
Well, yes. That to me is you saying like they were really overdoing it.
But I don't want to say overdoing it, because if I felt like they were overdoing it, I wouldn't enjoy the movie. Like I'm saying they, to me, intentionally put a microscope. Like I have never had personally, I've had experiences that are reminiscent of what was going on, but like that, you know, there are just things that I haven't experienced, but I don't think they were over the top in the movie. Right. I felt like they were just trying to make a point. But out of, like, I've never, us being growing up in Pittsburgh, we always talk about Pittsburgh racism. You know, the Pittsburgh, it's a weird situation that nobody really knows unless you're from Pittsburgh, but there's actually a lot of prejudice that comes from, I know this is going to sound weird to anybody who's not from Pittsburgh, but there are some prejudices of racist stuff that comes from a warm place, and some of our friends, you know, in the way that they interact, it's like they're actually trying to do something nice or good, but it's just, you're like, man, you just are very out of touch.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is horrible.
And so what I'm saying is I grew up more around that than the racist cop pulling up on me like, where are you going? You know, like I never experienced that. You know what I mean? Sure. So I'm not even saying that the stuff doesn't happen. I'm just saying that in this movie, it felt like, no, we're not being subtle. We are going to make these points.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. You know what, though? I will say this to the point of the cops. I was happy with the campus police that you never saw them, other than until the end when they arrested Malik, right? Mm-hmm. You didn't see them do anything like arresting like that in the beginning when they were like breaking up the dorm party. Mm-hmm. Like they could have made that scene go completely like way left. And I was so happy that it just showed them. It was unfair, but it was also understandable, because what are you doing on a Tuesday with all this loud shenanigans people are trying to study?
Well, but they let the other loud music go. That was the thing. They only broke
that
up
dichotomy. Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
Yeah, and I appreciated that. I appreciated that because in my mind, it's like, I just love that specific example you gave, sis, because there's totally a way they could have overdone that. Exactly. But what I felt like they were showing is just that constant reminder that you're being watched and you don't belong here. You're being watched and you don't belong here. And that, again, it's just very American. You know, and I just wish it wasn't the case that I still have experiences of like being like monitored in stores, you know, and it's like, gosh, it's like and I'm in New York City.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's
like a hodgepodge of people.
Yeah. But there's just that we're watching you and we're giving you permission to be here. That constant reminder that you're only here because I'm giving you permission, you know?
Listen, I just went to Trader Joe's the other day. You guys, I've been trying to bake more vegan, more healthy options when I'm making stuff. And I'm looking for some vegan unsalted butter, which is very hard to find. And I don't know why. And so, but I went to Trader Joe's and they didn't have it. And that's all I wanted. And I remember feeling weird. Y'all, this was last week. I remember feeling weird leaving out of the store with nothing in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember feeling like I was saying to myself, Brittany, don't walk too fast to the car.
Yeah, I know that
you
feeling.
You don't look like you're got something, but also you gotta get home because you need to get to work. Like it was just like this.
It's like that Roy Woods bit. That Roy Woods bit about like how some like he needs a bag. Did y'all ever see that Roy Woods bit? He has this bit. It's so funny. If you just look up on YouTube, Roy Woods Best Buy, that's all you got to put in. And he will talk about like, how white people can leave out a Best Buy with just their purchase and a receipt. And it's just like they just walking with like, their CD in their hand with their receipt. And he was like, I need a bag. I need a bag. He was like, I need my purchase to be clearly legitimate. And I know that feeling.
It's so weird. And it's hard to describe.
But it's
like, it sounds irrational, but it's like, that you're feeling like you're being watched. Like,
I just want to say that was one thing that brings me to something I liked about the movie a lot. And I always have they show you the reasons or the triggers that other people experience as well. And I'm not saying it's right or whatever, but like, think about Remy's experience, in this situation. Because I always said, even from when I first saw the movie, like, I feel like if Ice Cube had handed Remy the blunt, Remy would have probably showed up with a dashiki on the next day.
Yeah, he just wanted a friend.
He was just looking for belonging.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that it's not a right or wrong, but this movie also shows, like, for example, I didn't experience that a lot, where I got followed around the store. Like I haven't experienced that a lot in my life. And there were times in my life where, let's say I was doing something mischievous, right? And I got kind of called on it. It's like, no, you shouldn't have called me on it just based on, but I was doing something mischievous. I always had that in my head. Or like if you're in a situation where, let's just say you're the store owner, because the store I want to sell, you're a store owner, and let's say you got robbed 10 times, and every time it was a black dude. And I'm just saying.
You know what? And it was, I think that you point out it's really one of those things that are happening that we're seeing a lot now, is the origin story of the villain, right? We're able to see you have a reason that we can all get to, like, okay, all right. Now, does it have to be as extreme? If you are the store owner and you've been robbed 10 times by 10 different Black men, for you to now just preemptively be ready for them to do this, I can understand where it's coming from, but I also think that it's horrible. And I think about, for Remy, he has had a horrible experience on our campus. He couldn't make no friends. Ice Cube and him was being very disrespectful playing music. Just because you've been at this school for 17 years don't mean everybody else want to be here for 17 years. Because I was texting Aubrey and Janelle when I was first watching that movie. I did not like Ice Cube's character. I was like, why y'all still letting him be here? And how is he still in the dorm? I thought that at a certain point, you're not allowed to be in dorms.
Oh, they'll take, especially if it's on a student loan, they'll take that housing money as long as you want to. They'll rack that tab right up.
Listen, and then he's there. He can't, the frat people are too cool for school. He's too weird to them. Then even with his own roommate, he's wanting to play the video games with Malik, or not Malik, but learning Malik, him and Malik are playing video games, and he wants to go again after Malik beats him. Malik's like, no, he's about to go do something else. Like at this point, he is alone on some stairs at the campus in front of an American flag, eating something. And so it's just like, you get what is happening.
Yeah.
And you see how they capitalize off of someone who is a loner in this space.
Yes.
Totally. He was totally targeted.
You're someone that I can craft your personality in the way I want to and send you out into the world.
That's right.
So what happens in that moment is you're no longer thinking clearly that these were my roommates. These were the frat people. These were these particular set of people in this particular circumstance that have done this to me. Now you have been indoctrinated to think that it is all of them as a group. So my only resolution is to get a gun, get on the top of a building and shoot all of them. Mm-hmm. That is a horrible conclusion. And I don't care what your origin story is at this point. When your conclusion is to go and kill all the people, that is where we're missing each other. And this is where we are having a problem. And again, I get it. I understand. But I'm like, if your end result is like, you know what?
Well, I'm just saying.
Everybody need to die.
First of all,
yeah, your math is not great. That's not how that equation should end. Yeah.
Responding in a way.
I was nice to you the other day. I held the door.
Responding in a way where you're going to harm another person, obviously, that's never excusable.
Sure.
The point I'm trying to make is the movie did a good job of showing that there's a reaction to reaction to reaction to reaction.
Absolutely.
And all of this stuff, we're in like a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying, it's showing that like this person might have had a bad experience with just this situation. But if we're being honest, the point of the movie one of the points the movie was trying to make is I felt like if we're being honest, we all have preconceived notions about what this, because at the same time, I'm saying I've heard many conversations where, Black people will put white people in a category. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
All at the same time. And even tell them you can't be outside this category. You are in this, I've heard that as well. So I'm just saying the reason why I felt like turning up the volume made sense in this scenario or in this movie was because the date rape scene with the Kristen, the date rape scene.
Christy Swanson, played by Kristen Connor.
Is the rape scene was very impactful to me and it was very graphic in the way that they shot it. But what I'm saying is I'm not a small woman on campus. So even when I'm hearing stories and, there's not a way I could really relate all the way because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a person that I'm not, you know what I mean? Or maybe in opposite in a lot of ways. But the reason why I thought this scene was so interesting is because she did go out. She did get drunk. And like people will be saying, oh, why would you get drunk if you weren't planning on doing whatever? People will say, why would you go back to his room if you weren't planning on doing whatever? the thing that was interesting about this one, she was down to go. She was ready. She was ready. She wasn't. So like, even if you were trying to say all of those things, they wouldn't even apply in this situation. Because it's not even she was open to being intimate with this guy. She just said, grab a condom.
Super simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
3-second process.
What I'm just saying is for me,
it's such a realistic scenario.
It's all horrible, but that was like, I get it now. Like I'm just keeping my mouth out of this. Because it's like, yeah, it's real easy to say, oh, well, you know, she was doing this or she did that. And, you know, I've been on various conversations about all of that. And I can say that people, you know, I might say something like, yeah, you know, people should protect themselves or whatever. But what I'm saying prior to understanding this the way that I understand it, but it's like now, you know, after that, it's like, I just don't got nothing to say on it because she was not, I mean, like she was in the mode where, you know what, I'm in college, I'm gonna go have some fun.
And I just want to say, this movie was in 1995, y'all.
Yeah.
And we're having these conversations in 2022.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous. It's super ridiculous that we're having these conversations still in this time frame with as if it's a fresh eye. And it's like, it's not fresh, y'all.
And y'all,
it's
time for a bit of trivia. According to John Singleton, this movie was actually based on his college experience while attending USC.
Wow.
And so he says in the DVD commentary, in the scene in which Remy walks up to Malik and voices his opinion about the t-shirt that he was wearing, you know, there was a scene in the movie where Remy has already been indoctrinated, you know, and he's fully now embracing this white supremacist community that has targeted him. And he sees like a Black Panther shirt that Malik is wearing. And he can't help himself because he's so now obsessed with all this rhetoric. He can't help himself but to make a comment to Malik about his Black Panther shirt, you know? And it turns out that was actually based on an actual incident that happened to John Singleton.
Wow.
And, you know, it was one of the situations where he got so enraged, he wanted to beat the hell out of the guy, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, it totally, but I love what we're talking about here because there was a really, and bro, the scene of the rape really gave us a chance to look at the whole movie, but that scene really gave us a chance to look at how different the experience of community building was for the white students versus the Black students. So for Remy and Christy, it was like they were searching for their identity as individuals. You know, it was like, where are my friends? Who can I hang out with?
Right.
Whereas for the Black people, it was more like, I'm trying to situate my Blackness in this country. And so it was just, and it's just the truth of it. I think that there is the reality.
And this is where I'm safe. I'm safe in my Black people.
Well, the reality is that you know, growing up in Black America. So for example, if a Black person is being targeted by any group, even no matter how much of a, like if Remy was Black, and he had that same experience of not getting along with people and was settling into being a loner, and someone was trying to target him and recruit him, he would know it, you know, because I don't think we have an opportunity to be that oblivious, you know. Now, I'm not saying you wouldn't give into it, but I think you would at least know that is happening, because that is just the nature of like our experience of grappling with identity at a much younger age. You know, you just have to get further along. And so, but Christy and Remy, you know, they were truly like trying to find out who they were as individuals. But Malik was like, you know, I'm trying to understand the weight of Blackness right now. And then, you know, Christy gets raped and she doesn't feel like she can go to anyone. There's no one for her to talk to about it. But her roommate, played by Regina King, and I'm going to get that character's name.
Listen. This was like my
Her
favorite
name was
scene
Monet.
in this movie.
Her name was Monet. But also what happened was Christy comes back to the dorm. She's crying because she's just been raped. And the rapist, ends up calling the room. And at this point, Christy hasn't admitted to Monet that she's been raped. She hasn't really explained or decoded the whole situation. But the rapist calls the room. And Monet, she's become friends with Christy. When Christy indicates, no, I don't want to talk to him. Obviously, something has gone awry with this guy. Monet essentially says she doesn't want to talk to you.
No, she said she's not here.
She's not here.
Monet,
and then the rapist says, I can hear her. I know she's there. And then he makes a racial slur at Monet. Monet goes right to the Black men on campus, the other Black students, and shares that she experienced a racial slur. So I think it's another one of those examples where it's like, she didn't have to have a long-term friendship with these people to know that they would have her back if she needed somebody to have her back. And it wasn't even a rape. It was a slur. And she was able to just say, someone said something inappropriate and they had her back immediately. And so I think that because, again, it's another one of the things where our experiences are so different.
Yeah.
We don't have to fight for membership to the Black club. Because you have to be in, because we have to support each other. You just have to. We have to. It's just a basic survival instinct at this point in America. So many people that
are like, I don't want to be in the Black club, at some point be like, my bad, y'all. Can I get back in?
Yeah, and I personally feel like I always think of myself as a great example, because when you want to, like, there are lots of ways in which I have so many people in my circle that I don't necessarily have a ton of things in common with, except for our Blackness. And but it's enough. It's enough.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say that scene was actually a scene that always bothered me. The scene where they came because after this phone call that Janai is talking about, and when the Black students go confront the guy who raped Christy.
But they don't know he raped her.
That was the part that always...
I don't know why she wouldn't tell them.
Yeah, I didn't. But I'm saying, watching it now, it makes sense to me. Maybe it's a situation where they just had her there to point out the guy. And so they weren't there.
That's what it was. It was who made the slur to Monet. And that's what she was pointing out. She wasn't pointing out her rapist, which I wish she had. If she had just said to Monet, this guy raped me, Monet would have still called the cavalry. She still would have called him.
That's the thing I wonder. Like, because I wonder, it's hard for me to, in that scene, think that they made the phone call and then they went over there, and the way that it's Christy, right? The way that Christy was presenting, it was pretty obvious what happened to her.
It wasn't obvious that she had gotten raped. It was obvious that something had happened, but my life experience is that people need to articulate what happened. Okay. You cannot, because frankly, he could have just yelled at her. We don't know. He could have just been mean. You can't, somebody just looking shaken up is not enough.
Well, I will say this, people who get into those circumstances, that's a trauma response. She was in shock.
When I watched it this time, it made more sense to me in the way that it all went down, because that always used to bother me that they didn't address it when he showed up. Yes. But then I just started really...
I just wanted her to say it.
Watching it now, it's like, okay, she just went through this thing. I can see her going through her mind of telling this story. Well, did you go to the bar? I did go to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Were you drinking? I was drinking. Did you go back to his room? I did go to his room. Did you willingly start having sex? I did. I was. But what I'm saying is it stopped, and I wanted him to put on, I wanted him to put on a condom, and he didn't. And I could see him just say, I don't know what she's talking about. She just went crazy and ran out the room. So what I'm saying is, it made me watching it as an adult, I can kind of see like it would make sense to me more why she didn't say something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people tend to victim shame in those situations. Yeah. Absolutely. They will blame a woman for the way she was dressed when something traumatic happens to a woman. Oh, yes, absolutely, bro. That's what Christy said when she was confiding in the story with Taryn. Yeah. She was like, I didn't go to the university because they would have just said I brought it on myself.
Yeah.
She knew she couldn't go anywhere, bro, because they would have reacted in exactly the way you're saying.
Which is so funny that she feels that way because it was a campus that had blue lights set up. And if you're not familiar, blue lights, they lead you to a blue call box that immediately goes to campus police so they can come and find you and you can be safe and they can come tend to you for whatever has happened to you. And so to be on the campus that had a bazillion blue lights and a bazillion yellow call boxes with blue lights on them, and you're like, but I can't use this call box. That is a whole nother conversation that can happen there. Because the truth of the matter is it's a few people who have cried wolf and there have been no wolves for the ones that are crying wolf. And there's an actual wolf that is on its way. Its pinned to get has already hurt someone. And now no one believes them.
That's right.
It's a very scary situation.
That's right. That's right. And that's why this movie is so good, because it's like, not only are they talking about like flat out friggin' anti-Blackness that's at the root of this country, they also hit on the anti-womanness. She literally just had nowhere to go. It's like, okay, I can hit a blue light, but will they believe me? I don't think they will. My experience has told me that they won't, and I just even think about when we were growing up. When women were dressed a certain way or when girls were dressed a certain way, we judged them. And it was if your skirt was short, it was almost like, oh, you're asking for a world of trouble. And it's if
your torso is out.
If anything awful befalls you, well, you've asked for it by having that short skirt on. We were raised in that mindset, and it's just one of these things where it's so toxic. It's so toxic that someone being vulnerable for something would make people then blame them when the thing happens. It's just jacked up.
I want to, for the character that played the guy that recruited Remy, if you can bring up his name, let me tell you something, sir. Anything I've ever seen you in, you've done an amazing job at your acting. Yes. And I do feel he is a little typecast because he is always a butthead. But he plays a butthead so well. But here's the thing about his character in this movie that I wanted to point out. Even his character had nuance. When Remy had become exactly who they wanted. He shaved his head, He was out there mad at interracial couples, okay? Because at one point, Remy was hanging out with them and they went and started beating up this black man and slapping up the white girl because they were together. For
Halloween.
No reason. For Halloween. They walking around over there like peanut butter and jelly and they just ran up to him, started beating him up. And so I was just like, what is happening here? And
it's Cole Hauser. Cole Hauser played Scott Moss.
Shout out to you, Cole Hauser. You are
I just wanted to make sure I had the right actor, but I think that's him.
So him as this leader of this sect of the Aryan Nation or Nazis, however they were labeling themselves, I don't remember. Of this white supremacist group, he was saying Remy had gotten in, the indoctrination that they wanted, it took full root. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Remy quit school, as Janiyah stated. He was like, why did you quit? We need you in those spaces. Thank you for raising this, sis. Listen, y'all, that was scary because you think about all the things that happen across the boards, medical field, banking, anything that is happening out there, right down to being in the grocery store and someone watching you on a camera. These are people where we are indoctrinating you and we are sending you out into the world to make sure
a decision maker and to have power.
And to have power and to be racist. But also here was this issue where he's like trying to make him into this person, but he wanted to make him into a person the way he wanted to make him into that person. Here's the thing about when you're indoctrinating someone, you don't know how that's going to come out. You don't know how those things are going to play out. And so he's within this group, like, no, we have to be smart, think strategic, to the point where now it gets down to a place and he's like, have you ever killed someone? Have you ever done that? That's where it gets to. But you're watching, listening to them, and you're hearing what they're saying. And to the point where you can get upset. But I really was feeling bad for them. I was like, it's not only myself as a Black person who has been lied to in this country. It's you. It's all of us who have been, their history has been rewritten. And you are in your mind thinking you are justified about something. And you've been lied to the point where you can't see what's happening right now.
Yeah, that's what I really take from this movie. And that's what I was talking about before, is that when you're watching all these people, even the horrible ones, the movie is written in a way that you could track back. Absolutely. And it's not about agreeing or justifying. It's more like understanding. Like, I see where I don't have to agree with it to understand where it came from. And I'm just saying that it did a really good job of that. It's like, look, and I think that if I'm in a conversation with a person, even if I'm completely in disagreement with where they arrived, if I could truly say, look, I understand where you're coming from, but let me just explain my experience and, let's come together. I just think that understanding piece is what this movie was trying to do. Give a little bit of understanding of everybody's point of view. And other than, there were a couple of times that were overacted, like after Deja got shot and Malik cried. It was good, but then it went a little too far.
Now see, really? That's where I felt like Genia, when Genia was like saying about the girl earlier, like, just say it. I felt like Malik, I get it. That was a traumatic situation. He was in shock. But I wanted to go, Malik, if you don't wake up and go get a paramedic, like, I was just like, what is wrong with you right now? Call 911. And I'm like, of course they don't have cell phones right then. But I was like, he was.
I think they were showing us a psychotic break.
Like,
but sis, I think they were showing us another trauma response.
No, because absolutely. That's what I just said a second ago. Like, of course it was trauma. It was shock all going on. But I remember having that feeling of going,
call the paramedic. Put your hand over the wound like they do on television. Do something.
The police that might shoot you.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I just, there were just a couple of scenes that were stretched a little too long for me. That was one of them.
I could not disagree with you more on that scene. Let me just say, okay, so Omar Epps, we have a complicated relationship. Okay, because
can I explain my point before you refute it, and then you can refute it. I'll explain my point, then you can refute it. I'll just say, in that moment where I could see him going crazy for a second, but to me, him not immediately either running to go get help or running to go get Remy. And he's just sitting there like, I'm like, all right, this is
going on a second longer than it should.
So anyway, that was the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly, I was really impressed with Omar's acting in this movie. I thought he did a great job. There have been other things that he's been in where it's been like, are you experiencing the emotion your character is experiencing right now, Omar Epps?
Don't do him like that. Omar, you are really great at all the things you've acted in.
In this, it was like, okay, he is in this character. He is bringing this to us, because and let me just say, I would just say in general, just a general comment on the casting and then acting. I just thought they did a great job.
Yeah,
every single one of these characters was so complicated. That poor little listen, Christy trying to adjust to this campus life, you know, trying to find a place where she could fit in, also trying to understand what it would be to be a person that was anti-racist. She didn't even know how to do it, but she was trying, you know. And then Remy, listen, this guy just looking for community somewhere, you know, but also having aspirations so he does not have to go back to Idaho where he is from. He wants to do and things he wants to accomplish.
Which, let's point out, his father taught him how to use a gun. That was part of his culture. He said that he grew up shooting. So, baby, he was ready without being ready.
Totally. He had a gun. Deja, listen, I totally could identify with that character. She was sitting there like, yep, I'm running for education. It's whack. It's horrible. It shouldn't be this way, but here it is. And I'm going to get everything I can out of it so I can move on and do the next thing where I am better empowered and less at the mercy of a situation. She was holding all that complexity.
Can I say, same scene, I think she nailed it.
She was excellent.
I think the same scene when she got shot, and she was, you could just see it on her face, like, I'm not even involved with.
Yeah, I'm at a Peace Fest.
Yeah,
I'm an A student. What's happening?
I'm running track. I don't even want to get. I was just yelling at Malik. I was yelling at Malik the other day, telling them to stay focused
and
so we can get out of here and make our money.
You can see every bit of it. You can see every bit of it. And that Tyra Banks is another one. Y'all know that nobody talk about my Tyra Banks. Y'all know that. Y'all know I love me some Justin. Oh yeah, Brittany knows. Brittany knows. I love me some Tyra Banks.
I have seen all 800 seasons of Top Model.
Listen, and I've seen every Tyra Banks movie. But that's why I can tell y'all she doesn't always show up this well. Okay, because I've seen all her work. And I thought this is some of the best acting I've seen Tyra Banks do.
Yeah, she especially.
And that happened earlier in her career than some of the other acting I've seen. But that's how you know that this was about this movie. It was about this script. It was about this director. It was about this cast and the work that they did to make this story come to life. Because when you see actors that can be hit or miss, hitting it, everybody's hitting it out the park. That is about this movie and what they cultivated on this set and with this crew.
When you're saying that, it makes me think about, but they were just being themselves in a sense, right? You have, of course, the characters were the characters. So you have to get into the character. Mm-hmm. But like Tyra Banks was being a high achieving Black woman, which she was that in her real life, breaking barriers. Being this becoming a Black supermodel. So it's like you are literally
you're not wrong.
You have you're not wrong. What's his name? Ice Cube, who his roots are NWA. Okay, we know that song.
And that was real close to NWA back in '95. You know,
it's like, okay, you want me to
Busta
be
Rhymes was definitely being Busta Rhymes.
Exactly.
Well, he was definitely,
like, you know, you got all these things. It's like these are the rowdiness of who they are, but it's like, but we need you to put this in the character name Tyrone. Like, you know, we need you to put this in and kind of morph it a little bit to this person. And Omar, I need you to become Malik, but I still need you to be a Black man being these complexities because you're already doing that anyway. I just need you to say these words when you're describing it. Yeah. And I appreciated that conversation between Malik and Deja. That's Tyra Banks' character.
Yep.
That conversation that they were having back and forth about being a Black woman in America, being a Black man in America when they were sitting on the track field, that is a conversation that, of course, is still happening now. And it's a conversation, though, that has become violent in nature, and insidious and very dangerous. It is not like how their conversation was on that track field, where we're talking about our experiences separately, but understanding that we're still one community and still being able to come back to each other the way that they did. And leaving room for understanding and not dismissing. Because at one point, I remember thinking to myself, if Deja wanted to be done with Malik right now, she really could. After he went and fought all the white supremacists, he's sitting there and she's like, we're supposed to get this education, go get
out of
graduate,
here
and get this money. And like, that's what we need to do. We were just talking about this on the field. And then now to have him like, yeah, I'm excited. I just beat up the white supremacists. It's like, we're going backwards. We're going backwards.
Brittany, I wanted to, because that was another thing I thought the movie did really well. First of all, there's a clear line to Deja getting shot. And we could go all the way back, but really, Malik went and punked Remy into his psychotic break. You know what I'm saying? And it's completely Remy's fault, 100%. But if Malik didn't go punk Remy, Deja would probably still be alive. And I like how they showed that. And I like how they showed.
And like if Remy hadn't had to make that comment to Malik wouldn't have gone there and stunning on him.
If Malik.
Because Remy made that comment about Malik's shirt.
Yes, yeah. And so
if I were mapping out the inciting incidents for all of this, there's so many, and that's why it's so good because it's sprawling.
And that's the point.
But that even Malik, that was an act of retaliation.
But it was an act of retaliation. But Remy also just was in the dorm room, and he said, "What would you do if I played my music loud to Ice Cube's character?" And he said that wouldn't happen. Well, why not? Because I'll beat your ass. So like, he's also from a reaction. My point is that they were showing how all these little things,
yes, all of it,
led up to, and the tit for tat will always end badly.
Always, every time. Always.
And what he, they actually addressed it with Ice Cube, and I loved it because when you were in the theater, now I want you to think of yourselves in a theater in 1995, watching Higher Learning. Okay, really
there were some fights in some of the theaters afterwards because there was like things happening in the world at the time. Like I think it was around O.J. Simpson, if I remember what I was reading.
Oh yeah, that happened just a little bit before.
It just happened.
There was, back then we were still wearing the medallion, like the African medallions, and you know what I'm saying, the kente cloth and our, the colors and stuff. That it was a very, there was a lot of pro-blackness going on in that moment. And what I'm saying is, when you're seeing all these white supremacists and what they're doing and stuff like that, and that scene in the cafeteria, okay, where what's his name? I don't want to keep calling him Ice Cube.
Fudge.
But Fudge. So Fudge,
I'd rather call him Ice Cube.
Fudge saw the white supremacists in the cafeteria, and then he went and got his boys. He went and got everybody. And even the white supremacists had the real big dude, but they brought the real big black dude too. And he was sitting there, he was cracking his knuckles. And man, that scene where they were fighting, everybody was going crazy. Because especially when Busta Rhymes grabbed the two of them, and he threw them down. And immediately after that, they're all hyped up, and Busta Rhymes was saying, "We're gonna take this fist and beat it," and all of that scene just had everybody on the hype of just yeah. And then it was it made us feel the exact emotion we were supposed to. And then Ice Cube Fudge just brought it all back. Like, you sitting here excited because you won one fight in a cafeteria. And it was just like he was only not talking to the ones in the movie. He's talking to us too. And it was like, dang, they just set us up because we were surely in here.
Yeah.
Hype over this. First of all, we're hype over violence, which is, why would you?
What's happening here?
But not only that, it's like, yeah, okay, you won this fight. So what? All of them are still straight. You're the one who is risking yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like, And it was also, I love how he didn't explain the dichotomy of, it was like, yeah, I still went beat him down. I was with y'all, but I'm just saying,
what did we really accomplish? That's the thing. We did it, but what did we really accomplish? And at the end of the day, me and Brittany talk about this all the time about how, there are certain things that happen that if you really, really just think about it, it's always about people just wanting to assert power. I feel that about the people who are walking down the street and they don't want to give a little bit so everybody can get by. They just want to keep walking so straight
or driving. They just don't want to let you over.
They don't want to let you over. But yeah, bro, to your point, what Ice Cube was saying, what Fudge was saying was, listen, we didn't really win. Nobody won. Yeah, we asserted some power. But nobody won.
We had to do that because it had to be done. But nobody, y'all are in here acting like we just advanced race relations or something.
That we really did something for the people. We didn't. We didn't do anything.
And they showed that in the movie, even before and after he said it. Because when you think about it, which I want our podcast land to know, all of our podcasters, all of our Wright Perspectives, I want you to know that we were supposed to record this sooner and we didn't. And it was because of me. And it was because this movie put me into such a tizzy. After I had watched it, I could not handle discussing it because we try to be pretty PC on here. I'm probably the one that's the most says a little too much sometimes. And Janai needs to edit it out. But I will say, I know that if we would have recorded it the day after, we could have never have put this podcast out here because I would have said several things.
It would have been 4 minutes long because I would have had to edit all of it out.
All of it. It would have just been like, hello, we watched it. And then vote.
Bye.
That would have been it. But there were two scenes that really infuriated me to this point of what power dynamic looks like. So the one scene was when you had them coming to the frat house, the Black people coming to the frat house to basically to make him apologize to Regina King's character with Monet. And I remember her name, y'all, whoop, whoop. And then to Monet. And he was holding him down, making him say, I apologize, beautiful Black queen. As the campus police come up and break it up, you see the white frat guys saying about the Black guys, those thugs or
gang members. He called them gang members.
And I was like, they are a group of Black people. Again, not so much. And I was laughing because your homeboy just raped someone. No,
and you're in a fraternity. That's much more gang-like than this group.
And you all are the worst off of what you're probably even making them pledges and stuff like that do in your fraternity. But we won't even go there. So them having that part of hearing them say that, because what could have happened if they would have said the only thing that made the power dynamic different was because the white boy that raped her, he thought that they were coming for that as well. So he knew that he could get beat up by them and possibly go to jail. Now, what would that have meant for him? We all know he probably would have got out. It wouldn't have meant nothing. That's how that story would have went. But at any rate, it's still the Black people that walk away who are just defending someone who in that moment is defenseless. And then they're the ones being called gang members.
I feel like that's a very powerful scene. And it's for all the stuff that Brittany's saying, because if you notice, there was never any ramifications for the guy who raped her.
None. Not one bit.
Nothing ever happened. And the only reason why he de-escalated it was because
to protect himself.
To protect himself.
That's it.
Because if it wasn't for that, and that part rang very, very not just true, but also realistic in the sense of I have been in situations where people have squashed stuff just because they don't want to get more attention brought to this situation.
Absolutely.
But if he hadn't done what he just did, who knows how he would have handled it. But he was like, I mean, we're cool, right? We're all cool. We're cool. And it was just like that moment where it's like, yo, there's no justice.
And probably did not learn one lesson from it. Probably didn't learn one lesson.
What he learned is he has no consequences.
That's exactly what he learned.
That's what he learned.
That's what he learned.
That's exactly what he learned. And she was standing there in front of her accuser and still just didn't have enough power to say he raped me. She just, and that just says so much about like just the dynamics in this country where it's just like when you just feel like the systems are not going to support you. When you just don't believe the systems are going to support you, you end up realizing that the best thing for me to actually do in this situation is nothing. Because if I do anything, the system's failing, it ends up falling back on me.
All the way.
It ends up falling back on me. Now she just has to live her life with that experience. And he just gets to walk away with nothing having happened to him.
Nothing. And we'll probably see her later and be like, hey.
Totally.
And he'll probably do it again.
That probably wasn't the first time.
It probably wasn't the first time. The second time, which again would have put me into an extreme emotional state.
I get the first one.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I get the first one.
The second one was at the end, whenever we had gotten to the scene that Aubrey spoke about earlier, or Genia and Aubrey both said it, about them, Malik finally being activated and running towards the building where the shots came from. And him meeting Malik in the stairwell, meeting Remy in the stairwell and them fighting. And then the police coming up, beating Malik, not knowing anything. There was no question. They were helping Remy up.
They didn't just de-escalate. They didn't just de-escalate and break them apart. They literally let Remy free and beat Malik with no information. Malik.
And so then you have Remy running down the hall, gets to the dead end. This is the part where I was just like, I want to go through the television and beat all the police officers up. They were like calming him down as Malik is behind them, beat up in handcuffs, has done nothing except trying to avenge his girlfriend's death, or he doesn't know she's dead just yet, but the fact that she is shot. And even just what's happening and his anger welling up of all these things that are going on, him being a Black man, he can't do anything about it. And now the one that has taken a rifle on his own accord and decided to open fire on a group of people at a peace rally. They are walking up to him saying, son, it's okay. We're going to work this out. This is the police officers approaching him. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Put the gun down. It's giving him words of encouragement and comfort, affirming him. The person that just opened fire.
Sis, I will say, based on the expertise that I have from watching Law and Order in all of its iterations, I think that there's a lot of things that they say to de-escalate people.
Exactly, but also them being like really actually feeling bad for him. And the reason why I say this is because we have an actual case of that just happened a few years ago, where the white guy, Dylan Roof, went into a church, killed 9 innocent Black people. And even during his speech about why he did it, he made it very clear that he almost didn't do it because they were so kind to him. And then when they went to go get him, this man that they know killed 9 people, peacefully taking him out, going to get him something to eat. This is why I'm saying,
helping him get into the police car nicely.
There's nothing, I understand de-escalation. I get it. I don't know how to do it. I don't have them tactics. That's why I'm not in the law force. But I will say this, in that moment, I didn't see them trying to de-escalate someone that was doing something.
They were in their truth. They were in their truth
of trying to save a fellow white man. That's all that was. That's all that was. It wasn't about they could have been worried about their own safety and all this different thing. They weren't caring about that in that moment, in that scene. In my opinion, they didn't care about that. Because how they treated someone that they didn't know that he had done anything, his only guiltiness was being Black and then being in a fight. There was nothing else that made them have to beat him unarmed
And Remy would have gotten away. I mean, he just happened to run. He just happened to run to a door that was locked. He just happened to do that. He would have gotten away.
He would have gotten away.
I think Michael Rappaport definitely killed that scene.
He did a great job.
That scene
killed that movie, honey.
That scene and the scene where right after Malik came and punked him in the room, and he had his initial snap.
Baby, he went off.
He killed both of those scenes. I mean, he was good throughout the whole movie, like you said.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I definitely it's like you can see the pain. He was like, I just wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to build things.
I can't point at one actor because I always be wanting to replace one actor. I cannot point at one actor in this thing that I would replace.
I agree.
I thought the cast, and listen, and I actually have a little trivia about this. They had some other people in mind. So John Singleton originally had wanted Leonardo DiCaprio to play Remy.
He would have killed it too.
And Michael Rappaport was going to play Scott Moss. Michael Rappaport was going to play Scott Moss, who was the recruiter. White supremacist. I think he would have done a great job with that.
He would have done a good job. Yeah.
But DiCaprio was unable to do it because of a scheduling conflict. And so then Singleton made Rappaport play Remy. And then Cole Hauser was cast as Scott.
He did. I love how stuff aligns like that.
He could have done either.
He's a great actor.
He has a good range and he's funny.
Yes, he does.
You know, like when he was in Friday, he was funny. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, like you said, sis, across the board with the acting.
Let me give you some more little trivia on who could have been in this movie. Tupac Shakur was originally set to play the role of Malik, but he was jailed shortly after getting the part.
I can see that too.
Okay. Now this one, y'all, this one is gonna
especially after seeing him play a psychopath.
Oh, wait, before I say that one, I'll say this other one. John Singleton also wanted Gwyneth Paltrow to play Christy. And he wanted Juliette Lewis to play Taryn. I think those would have been two.
I can see all of those. Like usually when they tell
Juliette Lewis to see her.
When they tell you the second.
What's she in?
Who was second?
Sis, she was in The Other Sister. She played the one.
Gotcha.
Yes, with special
I know
needs.
exactly what you're talking about.
She would have done a great job.
She would have done a great job.
It's so funny because usually when you hear those second choices, it's usually like, that would have been terrible. But like all of those would have been good.
It's so good.
Vivica Fox was considered for Deja.
That role wasn't that demanding. So I think because she didn't have any big scenes. So I don't
know, bro, because and again, I think Vivica Fox could have done it. Fox,
absolutely.
I think she could have been a great Deja too.
But all the other ones we were talking about,
but Deja had some scenes.
I don't know about Deja. Yo.
Let me tell you what scenes Deja had where the scene had to be brought. Okay, she had to bring that scene where her mind is boggled at Malik's behavior. You know, when Malik is like. I honestly, Deja had to.
And you think Vivica Fox could have?
You know what? I do. But can I tell you what it's based on?
I love Vivica Fox, but I just don't feel like she could have looked like a college student.
Well, this was in 95.
No, even in 95.
You need to do some Googling on Vivica Fox, honey, because
I ain't saying that, but I'm just saying I don't know.
Oh, well, you need to know. No, don't listen. Listen, Vivica Fox, honey, listen. Back in the day, she was. She was a hot tamale.
I don't see her in that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
But that's the only one. I see all the other ones.
No, listen. This is. Let me be very clear, okay? Because I own some Vivica Fox movies, okay, honey. That's my girl. Don't get me wrong, but when you said it, I said I just don't. I had to think
about it. I
don't see it.
I'm going to tell you what lets me know she could do it. And it's when she was in this one Lifetime movie. It was a holiday movie. I'm not going to lie, y'all, because when I think about like her more like mainstream stuff, I don't see it because I think she gets typecast into one kind of character. Okay. But she was in this Lifetime movie and I saw some depth in that Vivica Fox. I said, what you doing, Vivica Fox?
Well, we're not going to argue with you.
Based on that. But y'all get ready. Now, this one, I hope your socks are on tight because this could knock your socks off. So, Dustin Hoffman was considered for the role of Professor Maurice Phipps.
Which we haven't even gotten into his character.
Let's now segue to that character because, if Maurice Phipps had been a white man, having to play some kind of mentorship role to a Black man about just accepting the realities of America, it would have been another truthful character, but it just would be very different.
Yeah, that would have been different, but it would have been different.
I had to look him up. I was like, I don't know who that is.
But I think it would have been, that would have been an interesting take.
And can I tell you, Sidney Poitier was up for the role at some point. That's another little factoid.
That would have
been very powerful. Samuel Jackson was up for the part at some point. Would have been very good.
That would have been good too.
Being a professor of political science, listen, and he's not even American, or he might be American, but he was born in the Caribbean. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That man has been through some things. Okay, to get to where he is, to be sitting there in that faculty office smoking that pipe, that man has been through some things. And that is why he played the HE double hockey sticks out of that character, because you felt all of that complexity. Because what he was trying to say to Malik, and he actually, when he was mentoring any of the students, because he did it in front of the classroom, in front of the whole class, what he was trying to convey to them is that, listen, you have to learn this game. You have to learn it. Being resentful of it doesn't make it go away. Okay, the fact that you know that you may lose at the end because you're set up to lose doesn't matter. Because you have to play it. You have to play it. And that's what he was trying to mentor Malik to do. And I really appreciated that they showed that mentorship coming from two different angles. They had the professor mentoring Malik to say, you have to play this game. And they also had Fudge, this super duper senior who, for all intents and purposes, have been avoiding. I mean, once you're just staying in school, you're holding yourself in any kind of holding pattern. You don't want to advance to the next phase of whatever. You don't want to do whatever's coming next. But Fudge was saying the exact same thing to Malik. He was like, listen, we're out here in this game. You're behind enemy lines. That's what he was like. He was like, you're behind. Right now we're in a war and we're behind enemy lines.
He didn't want him to take that book from him because it was for class. He was like, I thought you were just reading them for yourself.
But I thought you was one of the smart ones, but you ain't, so you got to go.
That's it. He was saying to him, you have got to understand what's happening out here if you're going to navigate it. And we need you to navigate it. Just as the white supremacists were telling the white guys, just you need to go and be successful because we need you out there. The Black people were saying to the Black students, we need you to be out here and be successful. And that Professor Maurice Phipps, listen, I looked it up. There's not awards associated with this. I need to Google some more because I just can't believe he didn't win something for that character. I just thought he did such a good job.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Let me look again.
Everything you touch turns to gold, sir. I don't think I've seen a movie that I have been disappointed where you have spoken. Even a television show.
You right, sis.
I have not seen anything where I'm like, oh no, it's Lawrence Fishburne. What was he doing? If anything, I go, say less. I'm in the building. Where can I go? Where's the ticket? How can I sign up? What channel?
He's so good.
I need to see Lawrence Fishburne?
You're talking about Morpheus, man.
Come on, it's Morpheus.
Listen,
bro, do we need to talk about the soundtrack?
I don't. Here's the thing. We're just going to say it was a great soundtrack. There were because
it's true.
Do you all want me to read some of these song names to remind you?
What I'm saying,
I know is that Mint Condition was on there, honey.
Look,
they had Outkast. They had
it was a great
Tori Amos, Janae, Eve's Plum.
It was a great soundtrack. They had
What I'm saying is we could get into
Raphael
a whole other
Sadiq,
conversation about that. But Raphael, but they have songs that permeated the culture because like the song about Deja, so many people don't even know that song
character
has anything to do with higher learning. Right. And so that by itself
blew my mind.
I mean,
I didn't know until that moment.
Yeah, they're literally and
I love you, Deja.
And you can think about how many people. And to me, that's what makes a classic soundtrack. When you have songs, even if it's a couple, that actually penetrate, But yeah, Higher Learning was definitely a great soundtrack. Definitely. And the movie, and the songs in the movie were great as well. And
bro, is this one of those ones that you actually had it on CD? Like, is this one that people had the soundtrack on CD?
All the way through 2000.
Okay.
You had
both of them.
Yeah, you had to have both. Like that. You had to if you just had the movie, you didn't have
you didn't have all the pieces
and the soundtrack.
Got it.
That is why people like Issa Rae, Lena Waithe, even people like Ava DuVernay, who are bringing back this culture, I would say, of having the music be just as dope as the acting and the cinematography and all these things. Like, they're bringing back that where it's like, oh my gosh, I love this song and I'm going to incorporate it into my everyday life. Like, I appreciate that we are getting back to that. I think that's so dope. I think it's so dope. So
all right. Well, y'all, now, because you guys hyped. Know I always scroll through the categories to see if we hit everything. And we did.
Oh, now we're very glad.
Lord.
Take it to the vote, bro.
Yes. It gets my Higher Learning gets my Columbus statue. And I also want to say, this is one of the ones I didn't know. I knew I liked the movie, but I didn't know which way I was going to go until we got done talking. But yeah, definitely. I just think it hits all the points. So it's definitely a classic.
Yeah.
I did not expect to have the viewing experience I had. I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. Okay. I mean, I'm not overstating here when I tell you I was blown away. I was like, what? The writing, the story. Like, the way the stories were so complicated and it was just so well done, because you know what? There could have been a way to overdo this and it just wasn't overdone. There also could have been a way to underdo it. Yes. And frankly, I was more ready for that. I was more ready to say, well, here are the things they probably should have done to really round out this story. No, I have none of that, because I just thought it was so thoughtfully written. And then the acting, y'all, I honestly, I felt every single one of those characters. You know what, movie? You developed these characters, movie. Okay. And then the actors, you acted them parts, actors. Okay. And again, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know most of those songs on that soundtrack. But the point is, I was also paying attention to the music because it supported the movie in the perfect way. I just felt like, man, these songs are coming in, and it's not just the tone of the songs, it's the lyrics of the songs are making sense in the scene where I'm paying attention to the music. And so I have to tell y'all, I've always been a John Singleton fan. I've been a fan of his because of what he has brought to the industry and his commitment to portraying lots of different facets of Black life in a real way. You know, I've always been a fan of his, but I got to say, this might be my favorite John Singleton movie. I'm not going to lie to y'all. And I also have to say, if I was really challenged with writing out like my favorite movies, I got to tell you, I think I put this on there. As hard as this content, and y'all have never heard me say that. Have y'all ever heard me say that? I don't say that, but I really would. I was blown away by this. So it definitely gets my Columbus statue, because I was like, go ahead, movie. You better have some universal and ongoing themes.
Well,
I'm blown away.
Listen, for all of the things that we've discussed, but also my initial reaction to after watching this movie, to where I literally needed a vacation and we had to move our schedule around, to knowing that it did that to me. This is a classic. it absolutely gets my Columbus statue because it is literally a movie that could be copy and pasted to 2022. Like it can, you wouldn't have to change any of the lines.
Nothing.
You wouldn't have to say, oh, now. The only thing that would be different is Malik would have had a cell phone to call 911. Like that is literally it. Like
the whole thing would have been live streamed. That's the thing.
All would have been the same. Right. It would have been live streamed as well. Like we would have had some recordings, but like but these things are still happening.
There you have it, everybody. Higher learning is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing, for liking, for sharing, and we'll see you next time.
Bye,
Love you, bro and
sis. Love y'all.